Through our factoring exploration, hopefully you found out that when we factor something, when we factor a polynomial, we're breaking it up into factors, a product of its factors. Just like if I had the number 20, when I factor that, that would be 5 times 4. I'm just breaking it up into a product of its factors. Or if I had 15, it would be 3 times 5. So we're basically just breaking up a polynomial into a product of its factors. Today we're going to be looking at factoring using the GCF, and what we'll be doing by the end of this lesson is making you able to factor a polynomial using the greatest common factor. That's what GCF stands for. Alright, so two things that we'll be looking for when we factor using the greatest common factor, or I will start referring to that as GCF. We are going to be looking for the largest number that will divide into each term. And then we will be looking for the smallest power variable that each term has. So if we can remember those two things, when we go to factor, we should be doing okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into examples. Let's say I have 9x squared plus 6x to the 5th. And again, I would like to break this up into a product of its factors. So what I would like to do is think to myself, first of all, we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at the 9 and the 6. What's the largest number that would go into both 9 and 6? And I know that number is going to be 3. Please notice when I wrote down the 3, I did leave myself a space, so please make sure you leave yourself a space as well. And then the next thing I'm going to look at is my x's. They both have an x. I've got x to the 2 and x to the 5. So which one is smaller? The one that's smaller is x to the 2. So that's going to be one of the factors. And so now what I'm going to do is start parentheses to figure out what will my other factor be. And the way that I'm going to do this is actually divide. So we will be doing some polynomial division. So I'm going to divide both terms by 3x squared. Okay, when I divide the first term by 3x squared, 9 divided by 3 will be 3. And then the x squared, since they're identical, will actually cancel each other out. Then I'm going to bring down that plus sign. Okay, and then I'll divide again. 6 divided by 3 will be 2. And then x to the 5th over x to the 2nd, I'm going to subtract my exponents and I get x to the 3. So this is that polynomial factored. One thing that's nice about factoring, you can always multiply it back out to see if you got what you started with, and if you did, you know you got the right answer. All right, let's try number 2. 2y to the 3rd minus 8y squared. Once again, I'll be looking at the numbers, so I'll be looking at 2 and 8. What's the largest number that goes into both 2 and 8? That would be 2. And then let's look at the y's. They both have a y. This one is y to the 3, and this one is y to the 2, so I'm going to take the smaller of those two, so I'm going to take y to the 2. So that's one of my factors. Now I'm going to divide to find my other factor. All right, so now 2 divided by 2 is 1. Y to the 3rd over y to the 2nd, I'm going to subtract those exponents. I'm going to get y to the 1st, or just y. Bring down that minus sign. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. Y to the 2nd over y to the 2nd, since those are identical, they'll cancel each other out. And I have my polynomial factored. All right, let's try another one. It would be great if you tried this one on your own and see how you do. So I'll make that 6y to the 7. All right, first thing I want to do is look at the numbers. So I'm going to look at the 14 and the 6. What is the biggest number that would go into 6 and 14? That will be 2. And then I look at my y's. I have y to the 3 and y to the 7. Y to the 3 is smaller, so I factor out a y to the 3. Okay, that's one of my factors. To get my other factor, again, we're going to divide both terms by the 2y to the 3. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Y to the 3 over y to the 3, since they're identical, they cancel each other out. Bring down that plus sign. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. Y to the 7 divided by y to the 3, we'll subtract our exponents and get y to the 4. So once again, my polynomial is factored. All right, if I have 2x cubed y plus 10x to the 4th y to the 2nd plus 8xy, that is a 4. We would like to again use the GCF, so I'm going to look at the numbers, the 2 and the 10 and the 8. What's the biggest number that will go into 2, 10, and 8? That will again be 2. And then let's look at my x's. I have an x to the 3, an x to the 4, and an x to the 1. So the smallest one is actually going to be x to the 1, or just x. All right, and then let's look at the y's. They have y to the 1, y to the 2, and y to the 1. The smallest is y to the 1. So that's my first factor. Now we're going to divide each term by 2xy to get my other factor. All right, 2 divided by 2 is 1. X to the 3 over x is, we subtract our exponents, we'll get x to the 2. And then y divided by y, since those are the same, they will cancel each other out. Carry down my plus sign. Now the next part, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then x to the 4 over x to the 1 is going to be x to the 3, because we're subtracting the exponents. And then y to the 2 over y to the 1, subtract them, we'll get y to the 1. Bring down that plus sign. Last part, 8 divided by 2 is 4. X divided by x, since they're both the same, they will cancel out. And y divided by y, since they're both the same, will cancel each other out. So that is my factored polynomial. All right, let's keep trying some more here. 15y to the 4th z plus 10y squared z squared minus 5y to the 7z to the 3rd. Alrighty, so let's deal with those numbers first. 5, 10, 15, 10, and 5. I'm going to factor out a 5 because 5 will divide into all of those evenly. Then let's look at my y's. I have y to the 4, y to the 2nd, and y to the 7. So the smallest of those is y to the 2nd. And then if I look at my z's, I have z to the 1, z to the 2, and z to the 3. So my smallest will be z to the 1 or just z. So that's my first factor. I will now divide each term by 5y squared z to find my other factor. All right, so now 15 divided by 5 is 3. Y to the 4th over y to the 2nd, if I subtract my exponents, I'll get y squared. Z to the 1st over z to the 1st, those are the same, so they'll cancel each other out. Bring down that plus sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then y squared divided by y squared, since they're the same, they're going to cancel each other out. Z squared over z, subtract the exponents, we'll get z to the 1. And then bring down your minus sign. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Y to the 7th over y to the 2nd, if I subtract, I'll get y to the 5. Z to the 3 over z, if I subtract, I'll get z to the 2. So that polynomial is now factored. All right, last one, I have negative g to the 5th plus 14g cubed plus 20. All right, on this one, if I'm looking at the 2 and the 14 and the 20, I notice that 2 will go into all of them, but I'm actually going to factor out a negative 2 because we generally don't like our problem to start with a negative number. So I'm actually going to factor out a negative 2. Okay, then I look at my g's. This one's g to the 5, this one's g to the 3, and this one does not have a g. So guess what? We cannot factor out a g. So we're just going to factor out the negative 2, and that's it. So now we're going to divide all three parts by the negative 2. Okay, when I do that, negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1, and the g to the 2nd, I think that was, g to the 2nd just remains. Bring down my plus sign. Well, actually, I'm not going to bring down my plus sign yet. Well, yeah, I will. Okay, 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7, and again, my g to the 3 just stays with the problem. And then plus 20 divided by negative 2 is negative 10. All right, so that's one way. I could have also written my answer as negative 2, g squared minus 7g cubed minus 10, and that would be also an appropriate answer. So hopefully now you can factor polynomials using the greatest common factor.